Chapter 1. The invisible battle you're losing every day, every morning, before you even rise from bed. The battle begins. Your enemies are not men with swords or shields, but thoughts, impulses, and distractions that invade before your eyes even open. You feel it a pull between what you want to do and what you actually do. You reach for your phone, you scroll, you compare. You waste the first minutes of your day feeding your own weakness. These are the small defeats that compound into a life of lost potential. You call it fatigue, but it is not tiredness. It is the weight of a spirit that has surrendered too many times. You want mastery, but you live in fragments. You chase focus, yet fill your day with noise. You crave peace, but your mind is at war with itself. This is the reality of the modern battlefield. A war fought not with blades, but with attention. Most people fail before they even begin, because they never learn to fight where the real enemy lives inside the mind. You may not see it, but your indecision, your hesitation, and your distraction are cutting you down quietly, day by day. Centuries ago, a man named Miyamoto Musashi understood this truth better than anyone. He walked through 100 battles and never lost once. But his greatest victories were not won with his sword, they were won with his mind. He understood that the way of combat was not about destroying others, but about mastering one's own thoughts. He left behind lessons not about war, but about clarity, timing, and inner strength. 5 battle concepts that, when understood, can make any person unstoppable not by aggression, but by awareness. These are not secrets for warriors only. They are lessons for anyone who wishes to stop losing the invisible war within. Chapter 2, The Invitation. If you have ever felt restless, if your mind has ever betrayed you when you needed focus, if you have ever been frozen by overthinking, distracted by small things, or defeated by fear, then what you are about to learn can change how you live and how you act. But I must ask something of you before we continue. Stay until the end. Don't just listen, train. This is not another story to consume and forget. It's a lesson, a blueprint for the kind of calm power that modern life has stripped away from most people. If you truly listen, if you apply what you hear, it will reshape the way you face your challenges. You will stop reacting. You will start responding. You will stop being tossed by emotion and start living by intention. So stay, breathe. And if you wish to walk this path of strength and self-mastery, subscribe and join this dojo of the mind. Every lesson here sharpens your awareness. Every story here is a form of training. You won't find motivation here, you'll find transformation. Let this be the moment you decide to stop living as a distracted wanderer and start walking as a disciplined warrior. Chapter 3. The Wanderer in the Mist. Long ago, in the mountains of Japan, the air was cool and filled with mist. The leaves trembled with the sound of distant rain. And somewhere along a narrow path walked an old swordsman. His robe was worn, his hair streaked with silver, and on his back hung 2 swords crossed in silence. It was Musashi, though undefeated in combat. He was not searching for war, he was searching for understanding. As he approached a small village, a young man ran to meet him. His name was Taro, a soldier's son, trained in many techniques but mastered in none. He had heard the stories of Musashi, the man who could see openings in the blink of an eye, who could remain calm when others trembled, and he burned with one question. "Master," Taro said, bowing deeply, "teach me how to win. Teach me how to never be defeated." Musashi studied the young man in silence. His gaze was steady, unblinking, cutting through Taro's pride like a blade through paper. "You wish to never be defeated," he said finally. "Then first, you must understand what defeat truly is." Taro frowned, confused. "Defeat is losing to another," he said. Musashi shook his head. "No, defeat begins long before the duel. It begins the moment your mind wavers. It begins the moment you let fear, anger, or doubt control your spirit. The sword only follows what the mind commands. If the mind is weak, even the strongest arm will fail." The young warrior stood speechless. Musashi turned and began walking up the path. "If you truly wish to learn," he said, "follow me. But know this, I will not teach you how to fight others. I will teach you how to fight yourself." Chapter 4. The restless apprentice. Taro followed Musashi through the mountains for days. The journey was long, and the master spoke little. When they rested, Musashi would sit in complete stillness, eyes half closed, breathing slow and measured. Taro grew restless. He wanted action, movement, technique. Every moment of silence felt like a wasted opportunity. "Master," he finally said one night. When will we begin? I am ready to train. Musashi opened his eyes, calm as still water. We have already begun, he replied. The first battle is the battle with stillness. You are losing. The words cut deep. Taro had thought training meant swinging the sword, learning footwork, mastering strikes. But this was different, slower, quieter, maddening. He tried to sit like his teacher, but his mind screamed. He thought about food, home, his friends. His ambitions, the silence became unbearable. Musashi watched him struggle and finally said, You are like the men I have fought, quick to move, slow to understand. You cannot master the blade until you master attention. Your thoughts jump like monkeys, your emotions shift like wind. You think movement is power, but true power is stillness. A trembling mind cannot cut. A trembling spirit cannot lead. Taro looked down, ashamed. He realized that his restlessness wasn't energy, it was weakness. He wanted greatness without discipline, progress without patience. He was not a warrior, he was a child swinging a sword at shadows. Chapter 5, The Unseen Defeat. The next morning, Musashi decided to test him. Today, he said, you will face me, but first, remember this, do not be moved by my words, only by truth. Taro nodded, gripping his sword. They faced each other in the clearing. The air was crisp, the world seemed to hold its breath. Just before Taro took his stance, Musashi said softly, almost kindly, Your father would be proud of you. The young man hesitated for the briefest moment. His thoughts flickered toward memory, and in that instant, Musashi's sword tapped his shoulder. The duel was over before it began. Taro stared in disbelief. How? I didn't even move. Musashi sheathed his blade. You did move. Your mind moved, and when the mind moves, the body follows. He stepped closer. You lost not to me, but to your own thoughts. The moment I entered your head, I owned your sword. That is what happens every day in the lives of men. They are defeated by words, emotions, distractions. Someone insults them and their peace collapses. Someone tempts them, and their focus dissolves. Someone disagrees with them, and they waste days defending their pride. All of them fall before the duel even begins. Taro dropped to his knees, humiliated, but Musashi's tone was calm, almost kind. You are not the first to lose this way. Every warrior, every man, every woman fights this invisible enemy. The weak never see it, the strong learn to master it. You have seen your true opponent now. That is the beginning of strength. That night, as the fire burned low, Taro sat in silence, his pride shattered but his heart awake. He finally understood what Musashi meant by the battle of the mind. The swordsman's real victory was not over others, it was over the storms within. Musashi watched him quietly and said, If you wish to win all battles, start here. I will teach you 5 battle concepts. They are not tricks or tactics. They are the foundations of a mind that cannot be broken. He looked toward the horizon where dawn was beginning to rise. Each concept is a weapon, he said. But unlike a sword, these cannot be dropped, stolen, or destroyed. They live in your spirit. Master them, and you will never be defeated again. And with that, Taro bowed, ready to learn not how to conquer others, but how to conquer himself. Chapter 6. The 5 battle concepts. The next morning, the fog lifted from the valley. The ground was wet, the air sharp and cold. Musashi and Taro stood beneath a tree as the old master drew 5 circles in the dirt with the tip of his sword. These, he said, are the 5 battle concepts that shape both combat and life. Each one is a gate to understanding. If you master them, nothing, not chaos, not fear, not the world itself, can disturb your spirit. Taro knelt before the circles, his attention fixed. Musashi pointed to the first concept, the void. To win, Musashi said, you must learn to see what others cannot. The first battle concept is the void. It is the space between thought and reaction, the stillness between one heartbeat and the next. When you enter this void, you act without hesitation and perceive truth without illusion. He lifted his eyes toward the mountains. Most people live buried under noise, opinions, fears, desires. Their minds are full, and because of that, they see nothing clearly. A warrior must empty his mind, not of knowledge, but of attachment. Only in emptiness can you see reality. Taro frowned. How do I reach this void? Musashi smiled faintly. By ceasing to chase the noise within you, sit still, watch your thoughts. Do not fight them, do not feed them. When you no longer cling to thought, you will enter the void. from that emptiness. Clarity is born. The concept was more than philosophy, it was psychological truth. Centuries later, neuroscientists at Kyoto University discovered that when the brain enters deep focus or meditation, a network called the default mode quiets down, the chatter fades, clarity rises. What Musashi called the void is the modern human's greatest tool against overwhelm, a silent awareness that turns distraction into direction. The second concept, distance. Musashi drew his sword and held it between them. The second concept is distance. In battle, distance is everything, too far, and your strike cannot reach too close, and emotion clouds your judgment. You must keep your mind far, even when your sword is near. Taro nodded slowly. So it is not only physical distance, but mental distance. Exactly, Musashi said. To see clearly, you must step back when emotion grips you. Step away from it when anger rises, create space before acting. The wise man observes before he reacts. The fool reacts before he observes. He gestured toward the valley below. The world will try to pull you into its noise, arguments, temptations, distractions. Keep distance in your spirit. It is not detachment from life, but control within it. In modern life, distance means emotional regulation. When someone insults you, when stress strikes, when anxiety hits, do not react instantly. Breathe. A researcher at Harvard found that even a 3-second pause between stimulus and response allows the brain's rational center to engage before emotion takes over. That pauses your sword. Musashi's distance is not coldness, it is composure. Taro listened, breathing deeply. So even in the middle of conflict, I can choose not to be moved? Musashi nodded. You can always choose stillness over storm. That is the mark of strength. The third concept. Timing. Musashi stepped back and pointed to the third circle. The third battle concept is timing. Many warriors lose not because they lack skill, but because they move at the wrong moment. Timing is rhythm, and rhythm is life. He picked up a branch and threw it into the river. The current carried it downstream, twisting and spinning. The water has timing, Musashi said. The wind has timing. You too must learn to move with the rhythm of the moment. Strike too soon, and you waste strength. Wait too long, and the opening closes forever. Taro tilted his head. How do I find that rhythm? Through observation, Musashi said. Through patience. The impatient man cannot feel the pulse of life. He acts out of fear, not awareness. Watch long enough, and you will feel the moment speak to you. That is when you move. In modern terms, timing is what athletes call flow, the seamless harmony between preparation and opportunity. Studies from MIT show that expert performers react not faster, but earlier because they sense patterns before they appear. Musashi lived this long before science gave it a name. When the world inhales, he said, you must already be exhaling. Taro thought of how often he had rushed decisions, swinging too early, speaking too soon, quitting before his time. Timing, he realized, was not about speed, it was about alignment. The fourth concept, flow, the fourth concept, Musashi said, is flow. When the body, mind, and spirit act as one, effort disappears, the sword moves, but it is no longer you who moves it. He lifted his sword in one smooth arc, slow as wind through grass. The movement was so fluid, so alive, that even the air seemed to follow his blade. Flow, Musashi continued, is the highest form of mastery. It cannot be forced, it is born from discipline. You practice until the technique leaves your memory, and what remains is instinct guided by awareness. Taro's eyes widened. Then all my repetition is for this? Yes, Musashi said softly. Repetition is not slavery, it is freedom. Once you repeat something enough, it becomes truth in your muscles, in your mind. Then, when battle comes, you will not think, you will simply be in today's world. Flow is what psychologists call optimal experience. It is the zone where concentration, skill, and challenge merge into one state. Neuroscientists have found that during flow, the brain releases chemicals that silence doubt and amplify focus. Musashi achieved this centuries ago by training with complete attention. If your spirit is scattered, he said, you will never flow. But if you unite your being, every act becomes art. The fifth concept, death at last, Musashi pointed to the final circle. The fifth concept, he said, is death. The man who accepts death becomes impossible to stop. Taro stiffened. Accept death? Yes, Musashi said, to live in fear of death is to die every day. But when you accept death, you live freely, you move without hesitation, speak without cowardice, and act with total presence. Death is not the end of life, it is the teacher of urgency. He looked directly into Taro's eyes. When I step into a duel, I am already dead. Because I have accepted death, I no longer fear it. I fight not to survive, but to express truth through my movement. The man who fears nothing, not even death, cannot be defeated. Taro was silent. He felt the truth of those words like a blade against his heart. Musashi's lesson was not just about mortality, it was about letting go of fear itself. The fear of embarrassment, of failure, of loss. These were the real deaths that bound people long before their final one. Modern psychologists speak of acceptance therapy, teaching that confronting impermanence liberates the mind. A Harvard study found that those who meditate on mortality experience less anxiety and greater focus. Musashi already knew. When you stop resisting death, you begin to live with intensity. Musashi sheathed his sword. These 5 concepts: void, distance, timing, flow. Death are not separate, they are one path. To understand them is to strengthen your mind beyond the reach of chaos. Chapter 7. The duel without fear. Weeks passed. Taro trained each day with a new calmness. He no longer rushed his strikes. He breathed with the wind, listened to silence, and moved as though guided by something greater than thought. He was no longer fighting against his emotions, he was moving with them. One morning Musashi summoned him. "It is time," he said. "You will face a duel not for victory, but for clarity." In the clearing stood another warrior, tall and steady. The two bowed. Taro's heart beat fast, but his mind was calm. The world slowed. He could feel the rhythm of the earth beneath his feet. His opponent stepped forward, but Taro waited, his eyes clear. When the moment came, he moved not fast, but perfectly in time. His sword touched the man's shoulder with a clean, deliberate strike. The duel was over. Musashi watched, silent for a long moment, then he said, "You did not fight to win. You fought to understand. That is mastery." Taro bowed deeply. For the first time his heart was free of pride. He understood what Musashi had been teaching all along. The battle was never against another, but against himself. His fear had turned into focus. His hesitation had turned into rhythm. He had entered the void, moved with timing, flowed with discipline, and let go of his fear of death. Musashi placed a hand on his shoulder. "Remember this, Taro. Victory is not the absence of fear, it is the mastery of it. A warrior who controls his mind controls the world around him." As the wind passed through the trees, the young warrior closed his eyes and smiled. The battle within him was finally still. Chapter 8. Musashi in the Modern World. The story of Musashi and Taro is not locked in the past. It lives right here, in you every day. You fight the same battles that Taro fought. The battle against distraction, against self-doubt, against fear of judgment, against the endless noise of the world. The sword is different, but the mind is the same. Musashi's 5 concepts are not meant to live in history. They are meant to be practiced in the chaos of modern life. The concept of void teaches you clarity. In a world addicted to noise, clarity is your weapon. Most people cannot go 5 minutes without stimulation. Their minds are filled with notifications, opinions, and anxiety. The void is the discipline of silence, the courage to face yourself without escape. It means learning to sit still, to observe your thoughts without drowning in them. When you practice this, your actions become deliberate, not reactive. You begin to see life instead of constantly chasing it. The concept of distance teaches you detachment. When you are consumed by emotion, you lose perspective, you mistake reaction for control. Musashi's distance means keeping your center no matter how close chaos gets. In relationships, it means not letting others dictate your mood. In work, it means not letting temporary setbacks shatter your confidence. When someone tries to pull you into their drama, take one breath before answering. That single breath is your sword. It creates space for wisdom. The concept of timing is about rhythm. Modern life worships speed, but Musashi knew speed without rhythm is chaos. You do not need to move faster, you need to move smarter. Every decision has its time. Opportunities have seasons. Timing is the art of knowing when to wait and when to strike. Sometimes patience is the most aggressive strategy you can take. The impulsive drown in movement. The master moves with rhythm. The concept of flow teaches total engagement. Whatever you do, do it fully. If you're studying, study with all your senses. If you're training, train without distraction. If you're working, pour yourself into the task until it becomes effortless. Flow is not mystical, it's the result of total immersion. When your attention stops scattering, the world begins to respond to you. The man who can give all of himself to one moment becomes unstoppable. Finally, the concept of death. This is the hardest for the modern mind to grasp, because we live in denial of endings. But Musashi understood that accepting death is not about darkness, it's about freedom. When you accept death, you stop living small, you stop fearing failure, rejection, loss, or change. You live boldly because you know every moment is finite. The fear of failure vanishes when you realize you will die anyway. The only real failure is not to live completely. These 5 concepts are not about war, they are about clarity of being. To practice them is to stop running from yourself. To live them is to turn everyday life into a form of disciplined art. Chapter 9, The Science of the Warrior Mind. Centuries after Musashi's death, science began to confirm what he already knew. Neuroscientists at Kyoto University studied master archers who trained in deep meditative awareness. They found that during perfect shots, brain activity in the prefrontal cortex, the area linked to overthinking, nearly vanished. What remained was pure action, guided by clarity. This is the void that Musashi spoke of, the silence of thought where truth appears. Psychologists at Harvard have also shown that meditation and breath control increase what they call the gap of awareness, the space between impulse and response. That space is what Musashi called distance. Every extra second of awareness lowers anger, anxiety, and poor decision-making, and researchers at MIT studying high-performance athletes discovered that timing and rhythm are not just instincts, they are measurable brain patterns. Masters sense the flow of movement milliseconds before it happens. Their minds don't guess, they feel. The brain, like the sword, learns to move in harmony with the environment. Finally, modern psychology has proven that those who accept mortality, who meditate on impermanence, show higher courage, focus, and emotional stability. Musashi's concept of death was not mysticism. It was neuroscience centuries ahead of its time. The warrior's wisdom was not superstition, it was psychology without a laboratory. Chapter 10. The 5-Day Mental Forge. Understanding is worthless without action. Musashi said, "The way is in training if you wish to strengthen your mind. Begin a 5-day discipline inspired by these 5 battle concepts. Practice them daily, not as chores, but as rituals. Each one is a forge that hardens the mind against weakness. Day 1. The void. Spend 10 minutes in complete silence. No music, no phone, no talking. Sit, breathe, and simply observe your thoughts. When your mind wanders, bring it back. Do this once a day. You are building awareness, your inner stillness. Day 2. Distance. Throughout your day, before reacting to anything emotional, a message, a disagreement, a setback, pause, take one deep breath before you speak or act. That breath creates distance over time. You'll notice how much power you reclaim simply by not reacting instantly. Day 3. Timing. Choose one goal you've been rushing towards, stop, instead of forcing action. Spend today observing the right moment, watch the flow of events around it. Timing is not inactivity, it's strategic waiting. Let your patience mature into precision. Day 4. Flow. Dedicate 30 minutes to one task. No interruptions, no multitasking, immerse completely. Notice how your awareness deepens when you give it fully to one thing. This is what Musashi called moving without the mind of two. The one-mind state is where mastery is born. Day 5. Death. Spend a few minutes reflecting on mortality, not in fear, but gratitude. Acknowledge that your time is limited. Let that awareness push you to act. Ask yourself, if I had only one more year, what would I focus on? Live accordingly. Repeat this cycle every week. You will feel your mind begin to harden, not with tension, but with calm strength. This is the mind of Musashi. Flexible, fearless, and sharp. Chapter 11. The weakness within. You say you want to master your mind, but how do you live? You chase pleasure, you avoid discomfort, you start new habits, then abandon them when they become inconvenient. You want the glory of the warrior, but not the silence of the training hall. You want the results without repetition. Musashi trained daily, through rain, sickness, and loneliness. He did not ask for motivation. He did not seek applause. His only companion was practice. The modern man calls himself too busy, but what he means is too undisciplined. You think you're unique? That you don't need fundamentals? That you can skip the repetition that built empires of skill? That belief is the greatest illusion. There are no shortcuts. Every time you chase one, you betray yourself. The warrior's path is repetition, patience, and truth. If you are tired, train your mind. If you are afraid, confront it. If you are weak, build discipline until strength becomes your nature. Musashi once said, "You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain." But he never said the climb would be easy. Stop standing at the base, staring at the peak, waiting for inspiration. Start climbing, step after step, breath after breath. That is how warriors are made, not in bursts, but in quiet persistence. Chapter 12. Taro's last lesson, months later. As spring returned to the mountains, Taro sat beside the river where his training had begun. Musashi stood beside him, older now, silent as ever. The sound of the river filled the air, a reminder of time's endless flow. "Master," Taro said softly, "how will I know when I am truly strong?" Musashi looked at the water. "When you no longer need to prove it, strength that requires validation is weakness in disguise. The strongest man does not show his power. He embodies it." He turned to face his student. "Remember, Taro, the path of battle is not the path of violence. It is the path of awareness. You are not meant to win every fight. You are meant to learn from each one. The man who knows himself cannot be defeated even in loss." Taro bowed deeply. "And if I fail again?" Musashi smiled faintly. "Then stand again. The warrior is not measured by victories, but by endurance." When Musashi walked away, the young man felt no sorrow. For the first time, he was not afraid of being alone. The world had not changed, but his mind had. He finally understood that every moment, every challenge, every breath was another chance to train. The path had no end, but he was no longer lost upon it. Chapter 13. Walk the path of the warrior. Now, the lesson returns to you. The same 5 battle concepts that shaped the mind of Japan's greatest swordsman can strengthen yours if you live them. You do not need a sword. Your weapon is awareness. Your battlefield is the present moment. Every decision, every reaction, every day is training. If this teaching speaks to you, stay, subscribe. Join this dojo of the mind, where we sharpen focus, discipline, and inner calm. This is not entertainment. It is evolution. The world will not slow down for you. You must learn to stand still within it. You have 2 choices: remain a wanderer, defeated by noise and distraction, or become a warrior, calm within chaos. Musashi's way is not ancient, it is eternal. Every principle he lived by still breathes through every moment you choose strength over weakness, presence over distraction, truth over comfort. The path will be hard, it will demand your patience and test your will, but it will also give you something no comfort ever can: peace through mastery. Remember Musashi's final words to his students: "The way is in training." So train every day until thought becomes silence, fear becomes focus, and the storm inside you becomes still. Walk the path, warrior. The world is chaos, but you can be calm.